Spoiler alert, but this was another great episode. I already love the characters, I care about them, and that's the most important thing for most stories. On top of the character work, we also got a little bit more world building and how the magic works, and we also got some action with our first proper battle, and that was such a treat visually. I absolutely loved the stylistic choices. But let's start from the top. Fern is now a year older. She's also taller than Frieren, and that first shot of those two together in this episode was almost a bit disorienting to see. It's like the audience is put into Frieren's shoes, where we just blink and suddenly Fern is older. But it also means that now their relationship isn't always just a student and a teacher, but sometimes it gets closer to a relationship between peers, and it's very cute. I adored seeing a sillier side of Frieren, like when Fern thought about all the unnecessary things that Frieren kept buying. Other than the obvious comedy that the audience can enjoy, I think it's also important to show that age doesn't automatically make you wiser, but also that being wise doesn't equal being serious. I believe that being unafraid to seem silly is actually wise. It kind of reminds me of when you have teenagers who keep calling everything cringe. If you do this, then you're cringe. If you dress like that, then you're cringe. But then you grow up and hopefully you mature a bit, and then you realize that all those things you saw as cringe as a teenager are actually the things that simply make life fun. I know this example isn't entirely accurate, but that's just what this scene with Frieren reminded me of. It was adorable to watch Frieren trying to pick a gift for Fern, and I especially loved that we were seeing that through Fern's eyes, who didn't even understand what was happening and assumed that Frieren was shopping for herself. While Frieren apologized that she didn't know Fern better, even if we saw her try to learn more about her, in a way we also saw Fern trying to learn more about Frieren, and that's how relationships work. They have to be two-sided, and in general, that was simply a very fun sequence to watch. My favorite bit was when they went into that shady tavern in the basement and Frieren talked to those super rough-looking guys about desserts. That was just a brilliant scene, and it also made me think about alternative-looking people in real life. I'm thinking, for example, of metalheads who tend to look tough, but they are actually some of the nicest and kindest people you will ever meet. And just in general, food is one of those uniting things. It doesn't matter who you are or how you look, but everyone likes to eat and enjoys good food. Sharing a meal is also a universal bonding experience. When you meet with your friends, you go to a cafe. When there's some sort of celebration, you sit down at the table. When you have a date, you can get dinner, and so on and so on. In this episode, we saw Frieren and Fern also bond over desserts. And we got a flashback of Frieren's old party, also bonding over learning each other's favorite meals. That whole scene, even the birthday present aside, was just heartbreakingly sweet, precisely because it's such a recognizable and universal human experience. I also adored the detail that Eisen's favorite food is sour grapes. That's probably the reason why Frieren learned that spell that can turn sweet grapes into sour ones. It shows that she cares, even if sometimes she herself doesn't feel like it. It's just like with apologizing for not knowing what jewelry Frieren likes, while Frieren was just overjoyed simply because it was a gift from Frieren. It also caught my attention that the hair ornament that Frieren gifted to Frieren was butterfly-shaped, and in the last episode we saw that when Frieren was a child, it was specifically butterflies that she created. It may have even been her first spell ever. So it seems that Frieren knows Frieren better than she thinks. Also, I'm wondering if that's the only connection, or if we might get a situation where butterfly imagery is constantly associated with Frieren. I do remember at least one other shot in the previous episode with a butterfly flying by Frieren's head, so while it's not necessary, I think it's possible. And I just personally really enjoy when characters are given some kind of visual symbol or a color or something else that we can associate with them. And that's where we get into the second half of the episode with the whole Qual plotline. There was a scene where Frieren asked Frieren, "Does this journey have a purpose?" I love this line so much because of how many interpretations you can find. Maybe the journey itself is the goal. Maybe you can give it a purpose by assigning a meaning to your journey. Or maybe that's kind of the point right now, that Frieren is just wandering aimlessly and she needs a purpose. She needs to redefine her journey. In a way, this episode already gave us a purpose on a smaller scale. First, Frieren said that she would like to retrace her adventures with Himmel and the others whenever it's possible, and secondly, she visited a specific town with a specific goal of defeating Qual. But on a broader scale, it is true that we don't have a purpose yet. We don't have a goal for the end of the series. I don't even think it's necessary. I would be perfectly happy if we continue with this slice of life format, but at this point I feel like this story could go in either direction and it's a bit too early to tell. I also like how Frieren specifically used the phrasing Himmel and the others. He keeps getting singled out. Last episode I proposed the idea that there might have been something more to the relationship between Frieren and Himmel, and small details like this one are the reason why I feel like that might be a possibility. I feel like Frieren is a character of contradictions. She remembered to visit this village where Qual was sealed right before the seal got too weak to hold him, but she forgot or just didn't think about so many other things that probably used to seem unimportant to her in the past. Like she didn't visit Himmel even if she regrets that now. I also absolutely adore the identical shots of both Frieren and Himmel looking at the same sky in the same way, separated by decades. I noticed that this show does that a lot, where it shows parallel or even identical shots to create visual connection between two different scenes. While I'm a simple girl who likes smooth, flashy animation as much as the other person, but what I value even more when it comes to the visuals is an interesting composition, angle, or parallel shots like such. Frieren is definitely a very carefully constructed show where each frame conveys something and isn't just there for the sake of filling screen time. And we finally get to the last section of the episode, which is the fight against Qual. There were so many great things about this part. First was the build-up with the whole situation that Frieren would know that her defense spell is enough to survive Qual had she read the book. And in general, Frieren, as a young mage, can act as sort of an avatar for the audience because as Frieren learns new things, we also learn new things about the world building. I also loved that when Qual woke up, he was just so calm and collected, and it was much more menacing than a raging beast would be. I am also not entirely sure what Qual was supposed to be. I think he was another mage who maybe went bad or something like that, and it changed his appearance, but please don't confirm or deny anything because I am sure that world-building details like these will be slowly revealed as the story progresses. But going back to Qual, I love how smart he was, how he immediately figured out how the defense spell works and also what are its weaknesses. When Qual was first introduced in the middle of the episode, I kind of expected him to be just a generic demon that we needed to defeat, so I am definitely pleasantly surprised that even someone like him felt like a memorable character. Another great thing was how the story once again brought back the conversation about how time changes perspective. Humans make progress very fast, and it's something I already spoke about after last episode. This time, we saw how in just a few years, they took this scary thing, this killing magic, studied it, and incorporated it into regular magic until it wasn't so scary anymore. So, after 80 years, even a young girl like Frieren can defend herself against this demon who used to terrorize the entire region. This situation reminds me of athletes. Take any sport. You can look at ice skating, swimming, running, disc throwing, whatever. The things that athletes are doing nowadays would have seemed absolutely crazy not so long ago to the past athletes. Humans constantly progress and progress scarily fast in all areas of life, and I think it only added to why Qual felt so menacing when he immediately adapted after waking up. And lastly, the animation was gorgeous. I love the texture of Zoltrak, or I guess the offensive magic in general. It reminds me a little bit of Mob Psycho 100 and how that show also played with textures. I also loved the shot from Qual's perspective, with the metaphorical cam shake when he looked up at Frieren. It's also pretty interesting how he spoke about Frieren flying, as if it's a very special skill, and also as if Frieren couldn't fly the last time they fought. We also already saw that Frieren is able to fly too, so perhaps it means that both Frieren and Frieren have this extraordinary skill now. Or maybe it's just like Zoltrak, where it used to be special, but now it's more common. And that's all I have about episode 3. Thank you for your time. Please share your own thoughts in the comments. If you're interested, you can subscribe. And hopefully I will see you again for the review of episode 4.